Hello folks, welcome to Tech channel. Today I'm going to help you how to build a full stack login using React and also using Strapi for the backend. And this is very quick demo here for the full stack application or full stack login we're going to build. For example, here this is a login page and this is fully authenticated, and we have only one page that unauthorized, which is a home page. For example, if you try to access that page from the top URL here, just for example removing this login and then try just to hit enter, it will redirect you to login page. And already this data here or this credential are stored in the database. If we try to log in, it will allow us to redirect to login page, and also you can see a toast notification to confirm that you are logged in successfully, and it will display your name here on the home page. So, and also you can log out. If you press this log out, it will take you directly to log out page. And if you don't have account already, for example, if I try to use a different account here, let's say any password, wrong password, and then login, then we'll have an error message here, request failed with a status code 400. And if we try it also with a different name, and that is not stored in the database, and login, and also you will have an error. And this one you can also log in with your email, which is gonna be just ali@gmail.com, and then login. Both basically your name or your password, basically this will be your username or your email, both are valid to be logged in with your password. And now if we logged out, let's try just create a new account that's not available. Let's for example just try John, for example Smith, and your email john@gmail.com, and your password just as password with a capital B, and sign up, and not save for now. So it will redirect you to login after, and then that's say registered successfully with the notification. And now I can log in with the John and let's hit login, and let's see. So since there is an error, we can go and see this in our admin side. So this is a server that also we are going to build for Strapi, which will be connected with your React application. If we come back here to manager, and here we can see our new user, which is John, is misspelled here with the A, which shouldn't be there, but let's try use with the misspelled one, which is this Gmail. If we try it again here, let's add A and try login. Successfully, that's now is login, and say also login or logged in successfully, welcome John Smith. So that's how the full stack login working and how it connected together. Let's try start directly and showing you how we can build this using React.js and Strapi. Before showing the code or before showing you how to build this, so basically we'll leave the code URL down of this video. It will navigate you to my GitHub account here and to this repository called Strapi tutorials. It will redirect you to this main branch. You may don't find the code, you need to change from here to relevant branch, which is a full stack login. You can just select this one and you can find the code here. So now let's back to our code here. I'm going to stop this and start from scratch or from the very first step. So already I created a directory. Let's see, created a directory. Let's open a new tab here. cd project and full stack. I created a directory, call it full stack login, and inside this directory I created two different applications. One called client, this is for React app using create React app script, and also one for the server using Strapi script to create this server side. And already I did 2 different tutorials for how to create a React app and also how to create a Strapi server or admin side. If you didn't watch that, I will leave the URL down of this video. You can go back and try watch them. So now we have this folder has 2. This folder, one for the client, one for the server. We are gonna not to do any coding on the server side, and all our work will be focused on client. Let's try just navigate to client. This already client is opened here. Let me open this in VS Code. So this is on VS Code. Let me just close all this tab. I'm going to explain this tab what they are. I just created very initial empty files to help us to just speed up this tutorial. If we go back again here, let's try to run the server, because the server now is stopped. To run the server, you need to navigate the server directory and then do npm start. And while this is starting, you need to navigate to client, also do npm start. And that now will redirect to this previous page, which our tab localhost 3000. See, this application we just created is empty application React app. We don't have anything that you can see here. Is just this text. And let's see also the server is just try to run, and this is running here. We need to navigate to this localhost 1337/admin, and this will take us to this tab where we have the login, and I just created an account with the test.com and password with a capital B and 1. And will take you to this admin page. As I mentioned, I already created a tutorial how to create this server or admin side using Strapi. So all these steps have been explained before. So it will take to this home page here. We don't need to do any coding in this Strapi admin or the backend admin side. So it will initiate this user collection for us, and this is what we are going to use later to add or to save our data from the client into the admin side or the server. So now this is our client, very empty, and we need to install some packages on the client side. But before installing these packages, let's try showing you the code base for the client side here. So basically, I just created a React app, and I removed some files that we don't need, for example, the app.css and also this logo.svg and also report web vitals. So all these 3 files coming with the React app when you create a React app, so we don't need them. So just to make your code a bit more cleaner, and also update this index.js to remove this report, the one that we just deleted here, so we don't need this one too. And what else? And I just updated the app.js. I removed everything. I left only this very small function, and if I just navigate directly, so I left only this code. By default, when create a React app, it will just add a lot of code here. And also created this component directory, and it also has around 5 different components, and each directory has only a folder with a file called index.js, and each file is empty, so nothing is there, so that you don't need to worry about what I did before the tutorials. So it's just empty files to speed up the tutorial. And also I created another files here, a file called helpers, so we are going to use this to create some functions later to just share them across the components. So let's go then to next step, and let's open, for example, a tab here and try to install these packages I just mentioned, and then hit enter. So that's now finished installing. So let's start with the first component, which is this nav or CustomNav component, and we are going to use React Strap navbar, and we are going to just modify that one and navigate to just this browser here. Let's come to React Strapi page, documentation page. go to components. We are going to use the navbar component, just then modify that one. I'm going to use this example here, this one here, and come back to this component. Before that, let's create the component and call it just CustomNav. And then instead of returning this one, I'm going to return this code, and that's going to bring some error. And I'm going to, because I need to import this data, these components here for this line, I need to save this component. So let's just see what is also missing here. This will use this function on click to toggle the menu on a small screen. This function is not exist, and because we are going to use hook function here, so basically let's call it toggle. Then this toggle function is not exist, we need to just create it here. And this toggle basically is supposed to update the state for this navbar to check where it's open or closed, and this one is not exist anymore, so I'm going to remove this one too, and this just should be called open. And I'm going to create a state or local state, call it open, and open by default will be false. And then here we can update open to be by calling set open to be opposite what is the default, basically, which should be just if not. And let's call it is open because it's a boolean, and this just change it is open. And we need to change also this function called set is open, and user state is not exist, we need to import it. I'll come here, curly braces, and now we have that. This call is open, so this is just to control toggling the menu on a small device. And now if we set this, should be we have everything here, so we need. Now let's just test it. And to do that, before everything, we are going to use this navbar inside to be displayed only on home page. So if we go to home page, because we don't have anything yet, let's create a home page component, call it home. And inside this home page, we need to display that navbar, which will be called CustomNav. And until now, we will not see anything on the browser. If we go to localhost 3000, it still is just this app. How we can get that? We can go to this app component here and just add the homepage component and then slash. So basically, VS Code will help me automatically to import this component. If you don't have this feature, you need to import that manually. Save it, and if you go back here, so now we should see the app is coming here. So now we have navbar but without CSS. Why? Because we didn't finish all the React Strap setup. For example, if you scroll down here, after installing, we need to add this or import this file inside index.js. If we back here to the index.js before your CSS file, let's add this, save it, and go back to the browser. Go to localhost, and now we see this our navbar, and this is the menu here. This is taking the full width. We are going to improve this later to just to be in the middle of the screen. And if you see this now, just you can go up and down. So we don't have that. We shouldn't have that icon on smaller or larger device. And we need to also, instead of this GitHub to be a link for logout, and this href should go to /logout, and we don't need this component here. You can take this out. And this is your application name. Basically, I'm calling it Strapi app, And now if we save it and go to the browser, and now it's changed to be called Strapi. We need to have this only on a smaller devices. How to do that? Basically, we need to add more props to this navbar here, and this is going to be called expanded, and the value basically we need it to start from mid screen and lower. So and then save it, and if we back again, now it's changed and bringing the logout button and also the Strapi. So we need also to style the navbar to leave this logout here on this right side, and to do that we need to add class here and just save it. And then we can go to this index.css and let's just add some comment here. Let's call it nav, so we can have different group for the CSS, and here called just int nav. And in between, let me add that class name we just created, CustomNav, and then let's add some CSS inside here. Let's add just justify content to be flex int. And because the logout has a class name called collapse, we need to add that just for the button for logout to be moved to the left, to right side. And if we save this now, go to the browser, and now this logout is coming here. If you need to see that where that class come from, if just inspect here and highlight this logout, you can see the class here, this class called collapse, this added by Bootstrap or Reactjs. So that now we have a space between the title, the application title, and also the logout button. So next step, we need to add just some CSS background for the body background, and we are going to use this hex code, and we are going to use this color for the text color. So if we just save it and go to the browser, so the screen now is dark. We don't see even the navbar. We don't have this. The navbar Y is not using this color because this has this color called faded. We need to change this just to be light, and save it and go to the browser, and this is our navbar. So now we have navbar. We have different background for the body. And next step here, we go to home page, and as you see earlier that we display the username after login. Where we're getting that from, we are going to create a custom hook. So we are going to create a custom hook, call it user data const, and then we are going to structuring it from user data, and then this would expect this to return us the user data, which for example including user name, and then we need to display it here. Let's add a new div so we can wrap it and add some CSS later, and inside this div let's just add a h2, and here we can display user name, and before that we can just add welcome, then the username basically, which will be dynamic. And then let's just save this. We can also add a class here, a class name for styling. Later we'll style this username. We'll also apply some CSS styling and just call it home. For now, just save that. Now we don't have this user data, and we are going to create it on helpers. And let's go to helpers here and create this export const user data equal, then for now just return empty or empty curly braces. And if we back again here, let's just import this user data, and which will import automatically from that helper file. For now, if we go to the browser, we'll just display welcome. But for example, if you go to this user here and return username, for example, this is just static data for testing, more Duina, and save that and now say welcome mo Duena. So we need to get this data dynamically later after using the Strapi server or admin side. So next step, let's create this login and logout and also registration component. Let's just create a very dummy component that's just to display these components, and this just call it login and log out, and registration. And now we have these three components, and we have home, logout, all of these components. And next step, let's add them to here to app. And instead of adding just home component, we need to have home component and all other components. And before that, also let's add now the time we can add the React router, so we can navigate between these different components using for example this logout button, or using here this, just doing like a slash login, and now it will not show anything for us, but if we're using React router it will switch to that page. So we need to import here at the top routes these three packages. As you see on the browser, this taking the full screen, we need to bring all of this to middle of the screen. How to do that? We need to import a component called container from React Strap, and that will be imported here from React Strap, and the close tag will be container. And then in the between, we can remove home for now. We need to add this browser router, and inside browser router we need to add routes, and inside routes then we can define our route. Basically first route will be definitely home, and that will have a props called pass, and then the path for home will be just a slash, and also will have element, and element which is the actual component we are going to display. And now let's just test it and see the browser. Reload. We need to change this, remove login, hit enter. So now that's render home page, and same we can duplicate it for other component, login and registration, login, and then login component, and registration, and registration component. And we need to duplicate also to logout component, save them. And now if we try add here slash login, hit enter, we redirect us to login, and it will not display that nav bar. And also if we add registration, it will take us to registration page. And if we remove this and go to home, we'll take home. If we press logout, it'll take us to logout, and we are going to add some functions later on this logout component. So basically we'll take you out of the application, will not even see this text. We are going to just return nothing here. So let's go back to the code. Let's start by building login component. So there's now empty component here. Instead of this, we are going to add like more proper content here. Let's just start here by adding a class, and we are going to add some CSS later to style this component, call it just login, as we added for home component. And inside here, let's add another div just to wrap our content. And inside this div, we are going to have a login title. And this title, let's just add it hu2 login, and then colon, and we are going to use React Strap input components or form input components as we use the navbar here. Let's come back to this form group here and come back to the component and side. Let's add this And for now, let's just remove this row. And we have label. We don't need to use label. We're going to just use a placeholder. And we are going to add this layout later, because we have different layout to what in Bootstrap. And because we have email and also we have a password input, so this is going to be for email. And this ID, because we are not going to use label, we can remove it. And placeholder, instead of this, just we are going to add enter email. And we are going to have another function called onChange. And this onChange is going to call function called handle change. We don't have it, we are going to create it. This handle change will update our initial state, which we don't have yet. Also, we are going to create, and we'll have value, and this value will have user dot identifier. We don't have this user yet. Let's first try go import this form group and input from React Strap here, as we have it here, and just add to this area, and we can leave the rest after just finishing all the setup. Let's create initial state for user, because we don't have that. Use state, and we call user, and set user. And this user, the initial user, we can be look something like password, the data which will be have initial password, which is be just empty string, and we'll have also email, and that also will be string. Because this data we are going to use it, reuse it later, we can assign it to variable, call it initial user. And this initial user, we can define it here at the top. And we need to import this user state. We don't have it here. You need to import it from React. And let's create this handle change function. Const just dummy or anonymous function. And if we save this now and go to the browser, let's see what we can see there. And let's just navigate to login. And now we have this very long input. This is just for email. Let's just close this one. Let's duplicate same one, same form group for the password. And we need to change first the type to be password. And instead of identifier, this will be password. And here instead of dot identifier will be password too. And actually we need to change here the initial state, this to instead of email just to be called identifier, as we access it here, user.identifier, and instead of enter your email would be enter your password, or just leave it enter password. Save it, go to the browser. Now we have two input, one for email or username or password. So basically you can use either username or email and your password. And now we need to have a button, so that button you can press or click on to submit. And this button we need to add at the bottom here, which this component or React Strap component, we have it here, this button. And this button have a text called login, and also we'll have a color props, and the color basically will be primary. Let's save this one and go back to the browser. Woohoo! Now we have login. If you press nothing will happen, so I need to add on click listener also. On click, and this will call a function called handle login, which we are going to create. Handle login, let's just create it after this handle change. And if we save it, still everything is working fine. So as you see, this very big inputs, and also the position and the CSS doesn't look really as what we saw on the demo. How we can bring that to here? We are going to use React Strap layout component, which is starting with a component here. Instead of this div, we are going to use a component called row, and this automatically will be closed at the bottom because I'm using some extension. If you don't have that, you need to make sure that it's closed here. And we need to wrap all this content inside a column, and this is be called, let's just rename or add another here, another div, call it with the call, and this is a closing tag. We need to bring it to that down just before the row closing tag, and we need to import this here. We have row, we need to add, we have column, we need to add row component and save them. Come here and reload that. Now we have this one column, and inside the row we need to add some more props to this column here. So this column on the small screen will take the full width by adding these props. SM equal 12. That means in small screen takes the full width, and from mid screen, mid size to larger screen, tries and use this size, and then the size will be 4, and then the offset will be 4.2. So now that's having a small login, and all these things actually coming from React Strap documentation. So if you need to go and see more on the React documentation on layout. And now if we go back to our code here and to React app, so we have now with a good size, but we need to bring this to middle of this screen vertically. So then this step, we are going to use CSS for styling to bring this login to be vertically positioned. And let's just go to this index.css here. Let's add a new comment for login, and then close it and login. And in between we have dot login class main height, which will be for the height screen. We need just to add it, the start from 100 view height, which will take the full screen height, the minimum height for that screen. Then align items to be center, so just to align item vertically. And now if we save this and come back here, you see that now vertically is aligned. And also if we need to make this background to have a linear gradient as we saw on the demo, we can add this by adding a background, and then will be linear gradient, and inside linear gradient you can add this value 90 degree, the first param and second param. I'm going to test this just quickly. If we save it, come back here, you see that we have a linear background in login page, but if we navigate to login page, we shouldn't see this because it's applied only to login. If you see that's different now. So now this is login component styled and also created with the dummy functions. We need to make these functions working. Actually, these functions are not working now. We need to update this handle change when we start to type. If we go to login, for example, here, and if we try to add anything, we cannot type now. So let's update this to make working. So how to make it working? So here inside this handle chain, we expect event, and inside this event has a target. We can destructuring this target like that, and then here we can update this updates the user by calling set user, and this set user has a callback function which return you a current user, and then we can modify that current user. So this will be just a current user, and we can or spread this current user, and then after that we can add new user that we just, or the new user data we just try to enter, which will be target, and this will be target dot name, and then the value will be target, just target dot value. And now if we save it and come back here, now we can start to add type anything, and that is working now. So before that, let's just try to make this look a bit nicer. We can destructuring this from target, which name and value, and equal target, instead of here like target.name and target.value will be just value and name directly. So that now look a bit nicer. So this is how we can update the input. Next one we need to handle login function. So inside here, this is where we will make a communication with the API. So because we are going to make a communication with the API, we need to use a try catch function to catch any unexpected error. And then inside try here we'll do the logic, and inside the catch basically inside try we'll do the logic to save the data into the server, and inside catch we can catch any unexpected error and display it to the user. So let's try first by, we need to add a condition here to check first to make sure the user data exists before submit the button or click on login button. We need to make sure the identifier or the email exists, and user the password also exists, and the next step, then you can send the data to the server. And how to do that, we can add first const, and then res or response, stand for response, equal await, and then axios, and then dot post. This is going to be a post, and then this post will have two parameters. First parameter will be your URL, that the server URL or server endpoint you are going to send this data to, and the second parameter will be the actual user. Here this for now, just add this, just call it URL. We are going to create this variable later, URL, then slash, second one is going to be just user. And this URL, let's just create it here, const equal empty string, for example. And async await, so this await, it will work with async. We need to add this async here, so that's why we see the red color. And also we don't have Axios imported, we need to import Axios here. And now we don't need this component, just let's remove them. And let's say that now we have this, we added the data, and this response will be back from the API. Let's console log res to see what res is. And before that, let's add the actual URL. Actually, we are going to create or to have local host, the server endpoint. If you see earlier, let's go to the terminal here. This endpoint will be localhost 1337, be this one, and then slash API slash auth slash local. This is a URL. And if we save this, let's go to the browser, and we have error here, cannot resolve Axios. Oh, we don't have Axios installed. Let's just check sure Axios is installed. Fine, Axios. We don't have it installed, so that's why we have error. Let's install it. npm i Axios, And if we back again to login, now access is installed. And if we tried anything, and then try to press login, we should see on the console log getting some error because we don't have that user saved yet. Let's try press OK. As you see here, we have 400 or BAT requests. That means the data we're sending through is not correct. So this identifier and password, and now we see the error but we don't see the notification. It is time to display the notification to the user until there is something wrong. And how to do that, let's go back to the component here. As I mentioned earlier, we can catch the error inside catch here and display any error message by using this component called toast, and we need to import it from toast library dot error. And this a function, and this function has two parameters. First one will be the message that we need to display, which will be error dot message, and second parameter will be the toast configuration. And inside here, just we need to add this hide progress bar, because by default the toast has a progress bar. We don't need to see that, so we can just hide it by adding this config setting here. We need so now if we save this and let's try to reload and try to add OK. So now here we handle the toast error, but to display the actual error on the application, you need to come here to app component and let's add the toast container component that will be imported from React Toastify. And if we save and try again, make sure reload and try login with this data, which is not exist. So the error is not showing. Actually, we forgot to add this CSS setup for React Toastify. We need to copy this CSS import from React Toastify documentation to our application index.js here, just before the CSS file, save it, and then come back again to the application and then try login with this any data. Basically should show an error because it's not saved in our database yet. So request failed with the status or with the code status 400, so that now is just showing that error. So what we see it here on the console log, I just try to console log it that, and this is a message, request failed with this message, basically what we display. And this is the login. And we need also, actually with this login, we need to add a text at the bottom here, so to mention that if you don't have account, you can create an account, and then we redirect you to registration. And how to do that, let's try go back to login component here. Where's the login component? And at the end, let's add h6 and close this h6. Let's add this click. Let's add a link component. We can import this from React router DOM and close it, and just add this here word, and this will navigate to registration tab or registration path / registration. When you click on this, will redirect you to registration page, and then to sign up. Let's save this and go to the browser. You see that we need to add some space between this button and this h6. Let's go to this CSS file. Here, just let's add a margin top, which will be inside the login. h6 margin top 15 pixel. If we save it and go back here, and now we have some space. And if you press here, it should redirect us to registration, and this is a step where we need to create registration component. So let's back to registration, which is empty here. So we are going to use similar login, actually this React Strap component, but in this time we are going to have 3 different input, and inside here let's have this div, and inside the div let's create another div, wrap all the content, and here let's just have h2 and same what we have for login, and it will be just sign up, and then after this we'll have our first form group input, and this will be your username, and second one will be the email, and the type, the first one will be text, and instead of identifier, username, and here user.username, and then here this will be handle user change, the function we are going to create that, and enter your full name instead of email, and then we need to change, this is the email, and need to change the name to be also email, and instead user.email, and handle user change, which will be the same functions that we use it for across input here, and instead of this should be enter your email, and third one we need it for the password. Basically the type will be password, and then enter password, and user.password, and handle user change function. This is the 3 input we need for the registration, and at the end we need also to add the button. Let's just bring this component from login also, we need to, which we import them here on the top, this component from React Strap, go to registration and add them here. At the end also we need to call this button for sign up, and the text will be just called sign up, and the color which will be for the button primary, and we'll have on click handler, on click, and on click will call a function called sign up. We don't have it, we are going to just create it, and just create that here, const sign up, and just empty function, and also user state we don't have, we need to create this user state, user state local state, which will be called just user, and then set user, and this initial user will be this empty object, and which has email, then empty string, password, empty string, and username, empty string, and need to import this here, user state from, we need to import that actually from React, not from React Strap. Add a comma here, need to import user state, and now we have user, and we don't have this handle change. Let's create that too, const handle user change function, just empty function for now, just we can have the component rendering without any issue. So now we have 4 or 3 input with the sign up button, nothing has happened, and if we type, nothing is being working. So how we can make this work, we can go to this handle change, as we have a similar function on login that will expect event will have a target, and this target will have name and value. We need to destructure these keys from target, which will be name comma value, and then this target. And then here we need to call this set user function, which will have a callback function, and the callback function has a parameter for the current user. We can spread current user data and then add the new one we just added, which will be the key name and the value. So now if we save this, we create, let's just add this space here, and if you go back to the browser, now we should be able to type. Now we can type basically, we cannot type on password. Let's see what's wrong on password. We have this same function, and we have password name. We need to change name, and instead of identify it a password, so that will allow us to type. Now we can type. So we have registration, and now we need to make it look a bit nicer as we saw on the demo, and to add some React Strap layout. And to do that, we need to use, instead of div here, to wrap all the content with the raw component, and this raw component will have a column. We'll bring all this content inside a column, and let's just bring the closing tag for column to bottom of the component just before the raw closing tag. Save it, and this column will have some props to have different size for different screens. So in a small screen we'll have the full width, and for mid size to larger size we'll have this custom sizes, which will be size, you change it to 4, offset to 4, so to make it just look like this. And now is move to horizontally to center of the screen horizontally, but we need to move it also vertically to the center of the screen. We need to apply some CSS to do that. Let's add a class for this row, or class name, and call it just registration or register, and go to CSS, index.css, and add here register, and int register, and inside here class called register. And we need to apply basically the same style for this login, and we can actually copy just this one and duplicate it there. And if we save it, go back, boom, that we have in this linear gradient background, and also bring the sign up content to the middle of the screen vertically. And so next step, we need to make this work, and we can create an account basically. For example, if we added anything here, and test, for example, as test.com, and password and sign up, nothing is happening, and it will not show even an error. So we need to make this work. And how to do that, we need to go back to register or registration component here and update the function called sign up. So in sign up, same again here, similar to login, we need to use try catch function, so we can catch any unexpected error, and inside try we can add like sign up logic to save the data in the database. And first we need to add also a condition to make sure all the user data is exist, which user dot, for example, username and user dot email and user dot password, and if all this data exists, then try make a request to the API using Axios, and this will return response, and then await. We are going to use async await, so it's because the API is a synchronous call, so we can gather the data, and then call Axios dot post, and then the first one will be URL similar to login, second one will be the user data, and then because await will expect async at the beginning here, and we can console log res here after that saved. We don't have the URL. The URL will be similar to what we have in login here. Let's just copy this. And I'm going to refactor this later after just having everything working. Just be in track. So now we have this one. We need to catch the error if there is any error to be displayed, and again this will be similar to what we did for the login toast dot error, and first one will be error dot message. Second one, prime, we can add toast configuration. We need to hide the progress bar. We don't need to see that. And now we save it. If we come here and try just press like that and try just do this to see the error. So now that's showing the toast notification there is an error. For example, if you try to use a valid data, for example, and let's create Ali, Adam, and Ali at gmail.com, password, sign up. So that's showing error. Let's see what the error is. This actually is not relating to that, just we're using the similar endpoint for login, so that's why we see similar error for the login. This should be updating the endpoint for saving a new user instead of local. This should be called /local/register. And now if you save this and try again, hopefully this time get it work. You need to just see the console log. So now we have a response, and this is with the status OK, and this is the data we're getting back. We'll get GWT or JSON Web Token, and we'll also have this user that we just created called Ali Adam, and with the email. And now if we go to admin side, we can reload the page here and see the new user just we entered, and that Ali Adam is saved in your admin site with the Gmail account or Gmail email. So now if we go back again here, so what we need to do after sign up, and instead of stay here, we need to redirect to login page, so to allow the user to log in. How we can do that? Basically here inside this condition, after we need to check if this res is coming back successfully. If there is a res, then we need to set the user to be empty first. See this here, instead of this data, we need to set it to initial this. Let's just create another variable, call it initial user const initial user will equal to this data. So after saving the user in the database successfully, then set user to this initial data, and then we need to navigate to /login. This navigate does not exist, we need to create it. Navigate, initiate it here, const navigate equal to use navigate. We can import it from React router DOM. So let's remove this one. use navigate, and navigate will be just redirecting to login. So here we can remove this console, we don't need it anymore. And let's go and try just create a new user. Let's just create, for example, John Smith, and John at gmail.com, and password sign up. So that now redirecting us to login and asking us to set the password or not. Let's just call here John at gmail.com and password and login. So let me just pick word login. So login, as you see here, the console log is coming with a 200 status, which is successfully, and we have the JSON web token, and the user data is not redirecting, which what we need to do in next step. We need to go back to login page and update login page. So if you log in successfully, then should redirect to to home page. So if we come back here to login component, and also we need to check if this here rest can be also destructuring it, returning data. If you see, this is what we saw it here, data inside rest, and remove this console log. If data dot JSON web token, because already we know that if with the JSON web token, then we need to do reset the user, and also we need to navigate to home page. How to reset the user on the form using just call this set user, and we have initial user data to be just empty, and we need to do the same for registration. Navigate and slash just home, navigate and remove this and create navigate here, const navigate equal use navigate, import from React router DOM. And so now we can navigate to home page after login, invalid hook, call only. So it seems we call something outside, because just we call this use navigate and we didn't call the hook. We need to save it and call it. That is a function. Let's just log in with John, and the John removes this John and password. Then hit login. Still it's failing. John is out a login, and that's redirecting. It's not updating here. The name is with the John name, because now we hard coded that. We need to make that dynamic, so which is next step. And before that, actually, we need also show toast notification when logged successfully to tell you that you logged in successfully, and as we saw on the demo. And how to do that, if we go here just before this here, let's add toast.success, and then first one will be the message which we are going to type it in this time, log in successfully, and second prompt will be the config, which we need to hide the progress bar. If we save it and now go to /login, try login with the John, and then you should see that toast logged in successfully. And next we need to, as I mentioned, to get this data dynamically, and to do that we need to go to this register or helpers function here, and we are going to create a function just before this, and let's just export that function, export const. This function called is store user. So this stores the user data on the local host or local storage, and will expect data or the user data, and inside here basically we'll call local storage dot set item, and the item will be the user, call user, and then first param, and second param will be the data we need to store. We need to stringify the data first. We can call JSON dot stringify, then inside we'll add this curly braces, which will be user. We need to just save inside the database the username, and will be user name, then data dot user name. The second one is gonna be the JSON web token, which will be data dot jwt, and this is the username, and we stringify them and store them inside the local storage. So this is the first function we need. And next function, before that we need to update also user data to get the data from local storage. So that's the data we need to display, const, and then will be stringify to user data, and then this will be we're getting the user data from the local storage dot get item, which is the user, and then we'll add, for example, if there's not exist, then just add return empty curly braces, and this because it will be stringified. We need to stringify this data or parse this data because it's a string to be parsed to read by JavaScript. We need to add just return, and we can return to parse after parsing this stringified data by calling json.parse, and then we'll pass this stringified user as a prompt to this if exists, or actually this curly brace should be here because this will be as a string. This should be just or a string, empty string, and because it's a JSON should be this format, and save that. And instead of let's just remove this hard-coded one, and now we can read actually dynamic data. And let's come back here, and we need to use this function inside login. Before showing the notification, we need to store the data, and to pass, we need to pass down the data we're getting from the API, which is this data here, and we need to import the function called store user from the helper. And now that storing the data, let's go and try to log in again, and this time, as you see, actually the data already is updated. It's called John Smith. That's what is logged in now with. We cannot switch because we don't have logout yet. We can, after getting logout component finished, we can properly log out and then log in again. And let's see the save data function, how it's working. So basically the issue, if you see here on the response, we have user JSON web token and also user and the username inside this user. We need to go to helper and then update that by calling, instead of data dot username. And if we save that, now we should see the right data / login. And if we try it again, John and log in, and as you see now we display John Smith's data. So if we need to switch and log out and then log in with a different user, which we need to update this logout function to take us out this. How to do that? To create a function to protect the route, first to protect home page route, or before actually protecting, let's just update the logout component to have this logic logout component. And then we need to return, update this, just return nothing, null. And inside here, we need to, in component, use effect on component mount. Then we need to do, to clear the local storage basically. Just we need to reset the user local storage dot set item. The user earlier we stored in the local storage, you need to set it to empty string. That's what we need to do. And then just redirect the login and navigate. And first let's create navigate here. Const navigate equal use navigate, and then call here navigate, and then go to login / login. And what error do we have here? Oh, this should be comma, and we need to import use effect from React. So that basically all, and we need to pass navigate here because it's changeable as a dependency. So this is all logout component. Basically, it's very simple component. And now if you press this button, it should take us to home page and or to login page. If you press it, now that's taken to login page, and the local storage should be set with the empty user. If you try to log in now with Ali, and then there's an error. Let's see what other user we have on the database. We have Ali Adam, which is Ali at Gmail. Let's use that one. Ali at Gmail, and then password login. That's successfully. As we see now, we see Ali Adam as a new user logged in successfully, and we can log out. Will take us to login page. And last things we need to do basically to protect, for example, home page. You cannot access this page without login. How to do that? So now if we try it, we can access it even without login. So as you see, we can access home page, but we didn't log in even. So how we do that? We can create a protector function here. If we go to helpers, so let's create a function, first export it, const, and call it protector, and this will expect a component, and this will be a component actually, and it's called higher up component or component. I'll be as a parent basically will drop the router component and then validate the component if to check where if you logged in, then it will allow you to access that route. Otherwise we'll just redirect you to login. And to redirect, first we need to initiate navigate, and that will be equal to use navigate imported from React router DOM, and then we need to set we need to get the JSON web token. We need to make sure that JSON web token is available. Const this we can get it from user data, the function on the top, and this will return all the data, user data, this one, all the data, but we are interested only on the JSON web token. We can destructure it like this, and then we can call use effect, and inside use effect here we need to check if there is no JSON web token, then just navigate to login page, which should be /login. And here we can add just navigate and JWT as a dependency, and we need to remove this first. We need to import this use effect from React. Import React from React. So now if we save this, and we need to use this component, how we can use it, we need to go back to app and then wrap the component that we need to protect. For example, here we need to protect this home page component. In this scenario, instead of called home like that, we'll call actually protector slash, and then we'll pass a props, call it component, which will be home. And now if we save it, let's try again to, let's close this one, never. If remove this and try to log in, see that it's now redirecting us to login also. I'm trying to go to home page, but it will redirect me to login because the user is not logged in. So it's same, you can protect all other component, or even if you created any new component, you can protect it in the same approach. So now if we logged in, let's try log in with the correct credential, and then log in. Now should allow us to log in. Now successfully logged in, and we cannot render the component. Let's see what error. Oh, this component here we didn't return on helper, so we need to return this component at the end of the function. Sorry, return component. So now we have home page. We can log out and log in again with a toast notification, and we can display dynamic name and this full stack login application. If you find this useful, press thumb up and leave comment down in the comment section. And if you didn't subscribe to the channel so you can see all new videos and tutorials. Thank you for watching, and see you in very next tutorial.